Hello everyone and welcome back to the shed. Today's video is of course on the new Rapido S160 in 00 gauge. All four of these are sound fitted examples. I'm going to be trying to change the format today, try and keep it as concise as I can, and we'll see how it works out. Of course it has been a long time since I did my last review video. Not to say I haven't bought new things, but this is certainly a big one. So I believe that everyone watching this video will know what an S160 is, so I will zoom the camera in so you can have a look at these four examples. First of all, we have the Rails of Sheffield exclusive example, which is Longmoor Military Railway number 701. A very nice model, lots of red picked out on it. Next is the general release Longmoor Military 700. Also very nice, but of course the red isn't picked out. This is the livery it wore as it was on the Longmoor Military Railway, 701 being a preservation only livery. I'd like to also preface that the lighting in the shed is absolutely terrible. That's because Andy has unplugged the lights. I can't be asked to plug them back in, and I'm filming this after work after a very sunny day, so the shed is in the shade. Next, of course, is a preservation superstar, which is Omaha in this lovely red livery. Of course, Omaha has recently been through changes. Two notable examples that have changed since this model is based on, if you see what I mean. The painting, the red paint on the Westinghouse pump on the front of the loco. Let's see if the camera wants to pick it up. No, because it's in the shade. That paint has now disappeared from the top of the Westinghouse pump. The Westinghouse pump is just black, and of course the loco has now been converted to be an oil burner, not a coal burner. One inaccuracy that has been noted about this model is that the lamp irons are wrong. They should have electric lamps as part of the lamp bracket. I know Class 47 Peter has already rectified this by using a donor body shell basically from a Bachmann A1, cutting the lamp irons off of that and adding them to his Omaha. And last but not least is another Rails exclusive. This is Private H.J. O'Brien, a named example of a locomotive that was used on the continent during World War II. A very traditional American look to the locomotive, black all over except the smoke box, which is this sort of gunmetal grey, almost silver. A really nice capture of an American locomotive, and of course these also would have looked like this in the UK, I believe. There's also the quite light grey livery as well. I purchased this because A, it's a unique example, B, it's as it was back in the Second World War, so there's enough excuse to run it as if it were in the UK. And being a limited edition, I'm a bit of a sucker for that. You may notice the other three locomotives don't have actual nameplates fitted. These are included in the box as etched separate pieces. You need to fit these yourself. I would also like to point out that at least this locomotive 701 came with etched builder's plates as well. Having to fit these ourselves feels like a little bit of a pee take. An extra £5 on top of the model's cost would have been perfectly fine. Amateur modelers are not going to be doing that. This isn't a case of black tacking it against a flat surface. This is a case of you have to bend components and then either glue or black tack it down, which then from any angle that isn't straight on the side of the locomotive is going to look annoying because it's got pronged feet pointing back towards the locomotive, if you see what I mean. Especially the Longmoor ones, which have those tabs painted red, so unless you are scraping that paint off and black tacking it down to look the part, Right, so let's cut, I will get one locomotive on a rolling road so we can see some action of this loco and the DCC sounds. So I've selected Omaha as our guinea pig for this rolling road bit of video. The reason is because this has a quite playable whistle on function 3. However, locomotives 700, 701 and 2582, the black one, all have the same type of whistle. This whistle is barely playable, and I'll make a point of that in just a moment. So let's turn on the actual sound, and there is Fireblocks glow on this model. There you go, I've turned it on. In essence, the actual grate itself in front of the firebox door, sorry, is closed, but of course there are holes poked into it for manufacturing purposes or whatnot of the real locomotives, which then allows a glow to be shown anyway, even if the shoveling effect is not playing, which is great. A certain level of realism, just nice to have. You have a working brake function on 2. Let's activate that so you can hear the sound. Oh, there's the Westinghouse pump, that comes on by itself, you don't have to activate that. So here's the brake. That's brake activation, and that's brake release. So now I want to show you the playable whistle on Omaha. You've also got a short whistle on function 4. Now, in the actual instruction manual, it notes that your playable whistle will have different starts and stops and a variable length, so you can just press function 3 and then it keep playing and playing and playing. That is not the case with the other locomotives, which all have the same whistle. I do wish Rapido would have done better with that. And of course, you can go into the CV settings in your DCC, change that over to the other whistles they have recorded for these locomotives, including the Chinese whistle, Denver and Rio Grande Western, different chime variants as well. There is a real nice mix there. It's just a shame that the one that is accurate to the other 3 locomotives is not as playable as I would like. So next you've also got guard's whistle and acknowledgement from the driver. So activating, you get the guard's whistle, and then deactivating it plays a whistle for you. On function 6 we've got heavy mode, so I'll demonstrate that once we start moving the loco along. You'll be able to hear the difference between the normal and the heavy mode kicking in. You've got train set mode, which, if I just have a look here, it sharpens up your response. Basically means it feels like you're playing with a train set rather than controlling a real loco, so you haven't got to deal with immersion or inertia or using the brake function. I suppose you can just have your fun. Function 8 is coupling and uncoupling. Sounds like a screw link. Sounds like a screw link. So I suppose that's a buffer up and then screw link. Sorry. 9 is shoveling. Yeah, nice audible as well. You want that in the model. You kind of want that, you know. Oh, is it actually really shoveling? If you listen carefully, maybe. No, they are definitely shoveling. Option 10 is coasting, so if you are moving your loco along at speed, you can shut those chuffs off, but of course the sound is still playing, it's still doing all of its other functions. Injectors on option 11. You've then got the blower on function 12. You've then got safety valve on option 13. Option 14 is drain cocks, though I don't know if these actually work at a standstill. No, so that will be as you accelerate. Ejector sound on function 15. Sounds about right. Water filling on option 16. Yep, certainly sounds like water being filled to me. Turns off nice and quickly too. Flange squeal on function 17, that's going to be speed variable as well. And you've got fade out sound on 18, shunt mode in 19, so you're able to have far more control over the speed of your locomotive. It just means that if you increase by massive amounts of speed steps, you're not going to get much speed out of the locomotive. And then of course you've got the air pump on option 20. We've heard that come on by itself, so if you do want it constantly running for a little while, you're more than welcome to activate it. And as a special little thing, I suppose, maybe there is one or two variants that has this modelled on the locomotive, you have a bell. So there you go, that's all your speed, apologies, your sound functions. So I suppose we can give this a little bit of speed. So that's currently on speed step 30, take it up to 40. 50, and 60. This is where I've been mostly running these locomotives at, speed step 60. It's a nice, not too fast, not too slow speed for a heavy freight locomotive. So while we're here, let me turn on heavy mode, so here we go. And there's your coasting. So without changing the speed step in any way, bringing it down, you're able to activate that coasting and leave it at that speed step. And of course you're getting the knocking, that you hear that plonk as you go along. The motion itself is really nice. I did have an issue myself with specifically Omaha. Part of the motion wasn't actually attached. This was spotted by Andy as I pulled it out of the box. Turned it around, realised the rod was also bent, so gave that a slight bend, popped it back into place, and it's been working fine ever since. However, that is a possible issue from either the factory or from transit, of which I don't know. That was not an issue with the other three locomotives. So while I've got Omaha plonking away, and let's see if we can get a little bit of a zoom in on that motion. It's very nicely done. Lots of pipe work on that model as well. I'm going to pan us over to our other locomotive. Let's turn the sound off for this. There we go. So this locomotive, sound on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press 3 for the whistle, and I'm not going to turn it off, and you can see what I mean by how this really isn't playable. And that's it. That's all you get. 3 is still activated. There is no playability to this whistle. Again, I can of course change this whistle to a different one through changing CVs, but then it's not accurate to the locomotive. So what is the actual point of having a playable whistle if this whistle isn't playable? It's a real nitpick. It's honestly the only letdown I can think of with this sound profile. Of course, the different modelled locomotives have their own whistles and different reversers, which have been correctly done from the factory. So that is the accurate whistle it should and did have. It's just annoying Rapido haven't made that long playable whistle playable. And there is no variation to the start or the finish. It is the same whistle every time. An actual shame, in my opinion. And my autofocus has decided to completely crap itself for some reason, and I don't know why. Absolutely fantastic. I imagine there's cobwebs up here. It's been a real problem. Let's sort this out. Maybe not. Maybe it was just my camera having a hissy fit. Now that I've actually turned the sound off, you can actually hear that this model is actually nice and quiet. I believe some people have had some complaints about these being a little bit noisy. I will preface this to say all 4 of these models have been run in forwards and backwards and have had all axles lubricated. That is the front pony, all 8 drivers, and all 8 tender wheels. A symptom of maybe not enough lubricant on the tender wheels means there has been squeaks on 2 of these locomotives. Since I've lubricated them, not an issue. I have used, I believe it's under Woodland Scenics. It is Hob E Lube with some hyphens in it. I believe it's under Bachmann's brand because they recommend it themselves. It's some really good lubricant because you're looking at light lube, extra light lube, medium and gear. So you've got some real variation there. I do recommend it. Has it been applied to any of the working parts on the motion? No. That's the only places I have not lubricated. That and of course the gears inside the model. So now I think it's time to see each one of these locos with a respective load. So these aren't massive culminations of our collections, it's just what I sort of told Andy to stick on the layout while I was away on a training course. For 701 we've got some of the Evolution generic Rapido coaches in LMR livery. For 700 we've got a freight consist of LMR wagons. For Omaha we have 3 maroon Mark 1s, and for the black example we have 2 war flats with Cromwell tanks on them, 4 tank wagons and a little brake van. Just something that each of these locomotives can haul. So let's film these going around the layout. You can get an idea of what yours might look like with an appropriate rate. So that was Rapido's brand new S160 in 00 gauge. It's a really fantastic model, lots of high fidelity parts with lots of pipe work, really nice livery application on these Longmore Military Railway ones, and of course Omaha. The lining is really nice, the printing on the tenders is really crisp. For the most part, a lot of these USA Transport Corps liveries are quite simple, but it really does capture what these locos were built to be. Freight locomotives hauling heavy loads, wartime loads across the country and of course across the continent. I now have to talk about the bad parts. First of all, here's that image I mentioned earlier about Omaha with its piece of running gear off. Again, this was an easy fix, and I believe even an amateur would be able to figure this out by looking at a reference image of this model online or looking at the other side of the model. Bending the component was not finicky, it was quite easy, but to have that confidence to do it, that may be an amateur modeler's downfall. But again, putting it right was simple enough. It was just popping the component back in and making sure it did not come out. The next issue I found was one of the tender screws holding the bogie to the tender being too tight on Longmore 701. This is a Phillips head screw, the cross head, and easy enough to slacken off, not even a quarter of a turn. It was very, very slim in terms of an adjustment, but that's all was needed in order to put the model right. I haven't had an issue with any of the other three models in that regard. Again, squeaky tender wheels. This was rectified with a little bit of lubricant. This could be easily rectified by an amateur modeler, and of course if someone is getting into their thing, into their stride about a model, they'll be reading the instructions, making sure, you know, how do I look after this product I have actually bought, because there are a lot of moving parts. They're going to note, hey, there are lubrication points on this model. Hey, I know from another model that I've purchased there should be lubrication points. I've already got a little bottle of lube. Let's lubricate those points and see if that makes an improvement. And of course it did. It has not squeaked since. These models run nice and quiet without the sound functions on, though I believe at least one person has had a bit of an issue in terms of motor noise. The tender bar connection, I should mention, is nice and easy. It is a 8-pin, I believe, connection. Line the pins up, push it together. Hey, it's not going to come apart while it's on the track, and if you want to take it apart to get it back in the box, it's not that much of a gentle pull apart in order to separate the locomotive and the tender. The sound profile itself is fantastic. The heavy mode, the actual exhaust noise, the shoveling, the Westinghouse pump, all of these iconic bits that make, I think, the preservation scene love an S160 in the UK. The only letdown I can point my finger to is the whistle that is featured on the black example and the two Longmore Military Railway locomotives. The playable whistle just isn't playable. It's a bit of a letdown. To say a bit of a letdown is maybe an understatement. It's certainly a letdown to me, considering Omaha's has such a playable amount to it. You could just leave function 3 on and the whistle would keep going and going and going. Plus, with that slight variation of the beginning and the end of the whistle, there's some real fun factor there. If you're going to be having a quick moment and going, I haven't played the whistle in a while, let's have a bit of fun with that. It just means you're not going to be able to have that much, I wouldn't say randomness, but that much variation if you're playing about with the other three locomotives. One big talking point I should go straight to is, of course, price. These are pricey models. For a non-sound fitted example, you are looking at £230 for a non-exclusive and £270 for one of these exclusives or this exclusive. It's very, very pricey for quite actually a small locomotive. Comparable to a 8F actually, in terms of it being a 280, it is of course more expensive, but this being American means there's a lot of pipework exposed. High fidelity handrails, the cab is really nicely picked out, and through each of those cab windows I can already see the reversers. The detail is notable, seeable, and I think the price tag is worth it in this case. It is most definitely an expensive model, don't get me wrong, but considering how long we have waited for this locomotive in 00 gauge versus, for example, the Roco HO gauge one, where it just didn't quite match up in terms of size with our UK 00 gauge models, this has certainly been worth the wait. The next point should be sound fit examples in terms of price. It is plus £100 on top of your just DCC ready non-sound fitted examples. So you are looking at £330 or £370 for these models. £370 is a lot. The only reason you are paying that much is because these are exclusives to Rails of Sheffield. The reason I wanted them is because, good lord, I love collecting Longmore Military Railway, and it would be nice to have something that is a standard as it was in World War II, but also a slight twist on that. It's exclusive. It's limited edition. It's named. Do I think it's worth it? With the sound profile available on Omaha, absolutely. I think if you're getting the other ones and you're not too fussed about that whistle like I am, go into your CVs, or of course if you have a friend or know someone, ask them to fiddle about with the CVs for you in order to get a better and more playable whistle than what's featured on 700, 701 and 2582. So overall, these are fantastic models with some slight issues that are easily rectifiable in my eyes, even by an amateur modeler. I hope you've enjoyed this review, and I hope this has swayed your decision maybe in getting an S160, or it has put you off and given you the conclusion that you wanted. If you have any questions, do please leave a comment. I'd like to apologise again about the lighting. A week off of work has turned into quite a busy week actually, and I'm filming this in the evening after an overtime shift. And of course I would plug in the lighting, but I'm not too sure what Andy has done in regards of a plug for the actual lights, so I'm just working with the natural light coming through the windows. In terms of another video, I don't know when I'm going to do another review video. In terms of pre-orders, I think at the end of this year, Ellis Clark's 210O WD locomotive will be finally releasing. I've pre-ordered one of those in sound fitted form, so well, of course in Longmore Military Railway livery, so I'll probably be reviewing that. I'm not sure what's actually going to be coming in the next few months in terms of pre-orders. My brain has switched off slightly in terms of that. If it's pre-ordered, it's kind of out of my mind for a while, until all of a sudden there's an announcement saying it's due within a week or two. Saying that, I think Rapido's Midland 440s are due soon, so I've got one on pre-order in Somerset and Dorset Joint Railway livery, so I may have to do a review of that versus the Fowler 440. I think that's maybe a little unfair, as they are two different 440s, even though they are both SDJR. And of course Hornby's, in terms of detail, is falling by the wayside. But I think that would be quite a nice comparison to be able to do, especially from a price point of view. So I may very well do that. So until the next time we are in the shed, goodbye.